And I was able to sort of put that in the book and say, this is, if no other reason, is why you shouldn't use fentanyl.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, you are never going to be able to measure this tiny amount of this stuff.
So have you tried it or not?
No, it's the only one I haven't tried.
Right.
And the only reason is I wasn't scared of it.
Yeah.
What I was scared of is my ability to somehow break down this sugar granule, less than that, into a bit that I could actually...
You just take a tiny amount of it and you can die, right? We've got maybe 5-10 minutes left. Can I quickly play a game with you, Dominic, where we hit you with some names of sort of more common drugs, because we don't know all the niche ones that are in these books. Yeah. And you give us a sentence or two about each one, what you learnt from it, what it made you feel, and stuff like that.
Shrooms.
Shrooms were LSD-like, very enjoyable.
Did you do these in Amsterdam?
I did truffles in Amsterdam.
Okay.
But prawn, which is the same thing.
Prawn?
Prawn, P-R-O-N-E.
Oh, right, prawn. Right.
Prone to overdosing if you have them in the wrong place, meaning that if you have a box of truffles of 14 grams in the middle of Amsterdam, you're likely to have a very uncomfortable experience on a hot day, wanting to go back to the hotel and to your friends, take me back to the hotel. It's all too much for me.
Okay, DMT.
DMT is short, wild, difficult to interpret, which is why I prefer Changa, which is a smokable version of DMT, but that's a bit longer. It spreads the experience out.
Right.
Rather than 5 minutes, it's maybe 15, and you have more time to get your head around what the hell's going on.
I had somebody say to me, I don't know if it was DMT, but somebody said to me that there's a drug, I don't know if this will make any sense to you, but there's a drug that kind of makes you not fear death anymore, because it's a chemical that apparently your brain releases only when you're born and when you die, but this drug can replicate that.
That's DMT. That's DMT, which is actually the prime psychoactive ingredient of ayahuasca.
Oh, right.
So what ayahuasca does, again, is it slows the DMT down even further than Changa and makes it into a 6-hour, 5-hour experience that you're ingesting it, and you've got more sort of awareness and control over what you're thinking about and where you're taking it.
Right.
That you don't really have with DMT. Oh. And ayahuasca definitely can make you not fear death. I don't fear death like I used to.
Do you not? That was going to be my final question. Is it what do you not?
No, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Because I think I've got lots of things to do yet.
Yeah.
And I enjoy taking drugs. I don't say that. Yeah. I enjoy, living a life.
Yeah.
But if I die, I wouldn't. I'm going to die anyway, and so are you.
You're less scared of it now?
I'm not really scared of it.
Fair enough.
Salvia?
Yeah, we touched
spoken
on
about.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's it?
Yeah. Seriously, find a better drug.
Cocaine?
Oh, well, that can be very, very nice. It's, what can you say about it? Don't overdo it. Always test it, because the stuff they mix it with these days. I once did there's an analysis in the book of 150 samples, I think it is, from the drug testing centre of cocaine sold on the British streets.
Right.
And how many had this in, how many had that in, how many had that. Very little cocaine is cocaine on its own.
Yeah.
Surprisingly high number, it's about 40-odd%, but the rest of it is mixed with everything from worming tablets to you name it, and I've got the percentage broken down.
Oh,
and it's only when I'd actually worked that out, so I'm never buying cocaine in this country again.
How can you test it?
Well, you can send it off freely and anonymously if you're in the UK to a NHS department called Weddinos.
Oh, right.
Weddinos.org.
Yeah.
And they'll do it for free. It takes a couple of weeks for them to come back and put the results online.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them who you are or anything,
right.
And they'll tell you exactly what is in this drug.
Oh, right.
Or you can get a testing kit.
And where'd you get them from? Online?
Yeah.
What's the difference between cocaine and crack cocaine?
Crack cocaine is a sort of smokable, stronger version. and you sort of typically burn it on a spoon.
Right.
That's where, like, I feel like people, like, cocaine feels quite normalised.
Yeah.
But if someone's like, they're on crack, that feels like they've...
Well, that hits you stronger and harder and more quickly. And a little story on that is when I first had cocaine, it was actually crack. And what happened was, in fact, I smoked it in Amsterdam years later, but the first one was in New York in 1992, where I was sent by Barclays to a conference. Thanks, Barclays. And I was there with some colleagues, and we were off on the conference the next day, and we were all drunk.
Yeah.
Because the flight for British Airways were 2 hours late, and all we could do was get drunk at Manchester Airport. So we arrived pissed. And we got there and we were near Times Square, 42nd Street. We're at the Hyatt Hotel, Grand Hyatt. And the guys went to bed, and I thought, I couldn't sleep. I thought, I'm going to have a walk up and down 42nd Street, have a look at Times Square. How can you go to bed?
Yeah.
Even though you're tired and you're drunk.
Yeah.
I've got to.
Yeah.
And this guy offered me cocaine when I was walking back from Times Square. And something inside me made me say yes. So he gave me this capsule, which sort of had a sort of fluidy, sort of white stuff in it. It was really weird. There was a bit of solid stuff in it. And I got back to my room and I thought, I'm sure you snort cocaine. And it's not powder.
Right.
So I swallowed it. Right.
Well, all of it?
Yeah. And I thought that I'm going to get high, but nothing happened and I went to sleep. And then the next day, they were terrible hangovers and I was completely all right. In fact, I felt really good. And it was only years later that I realised that Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. It really did.
Yeah.
And the reason it took off as being popular is it was a cure for a hangover. They would have cocaine in the morning in Coca-Cola.
Oh.
So it obviously massive,
Yeah.
overnight
Yeah.
growth, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then they took it out, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's only 30% or some low bioactive, meaning that if you eat this stuff instead of smoking it or somehow make it turn it into powder, which I don't know how you would do that, it's going to be much, much weaker. But it was strong enough to forgive my hangover the next morning, and I had a great day. And the other two guys were feeling like they were going to be sick all day and and they think I can drink anyone under the table.
So crack's better than Coke?
I would say not, because you can't. You're probably going to get addicted if you're having it in smokable form, because it's going to be a really euphoric. I had it once in smokable form when someone in some sort of place we won't go into details, in Amsterdam, said, try this. And it was just so high so quickly, and then it went away so quickly. And I don't like a sort of wham bam thank you man.
Yeah.
And then so I prefer snortable, normal, regular cocaine.
Ketamine, what's that like? A lot of the kids will do this these days, don't they?
It's nice,
Yeah.
you know. Well, going back to dissociatives generally, there's a dissociative called ephenidine, and it's like an oral ketamine, and that's my favourite dissociative. It's one of my favourite drugs.
Right.
It's a research chemical that never really got popular because it got banned.
Yeah.
And it's like ketamine, only the sort of ayahuasca version is it lengthens experience.
All right.
And that experience is like, there's two things happening. One, things are sort of going slightly weird, and like they are with ketamine. Have you had ketamine?
No, I haven't.
You're both saying no. I don't believe it at all.
That's the horse tranquilizer one,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
See, that's another one that I think has quite bad rep. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, that's quite disgusting.
The problem is it causes bladder issues, ketamine.
Right.
And ephenidine, there's no evidence that it does.
Right.
What, as in, like, you just need to...
No,
a
bladder
lot, or
issues, and it's
actual
toxic. It causes damage.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a kid and you're having ketamine all the time,
Yeah.
don't do that. Right.
Yeah.
Because it is actually a problem.
Yeah.
So you sort of feeling, first of all, everything's a bit sort of weird. You know, everything's a bit sort of difficult to explain, but things not as they should be. Your sort of vision's a bit it's not blurred in any way, it's just disjointed.
All right.
And then you're suddenly feeling sort of elevated. So I felt like, and especially over the long version, which I loved, you sort of like you're walking around and it's like you're sort of gliding along,
Right.
where everything's a bit weird and colourful.
Yeah.
You know, you feel alive, and you're also a bit stimulated.
Yeah.
And it's an altogether pleasant experience. But yeah, I said the problem is with snorting it, and is if you don't crush it up enough, it's also sort of the crystals can damage your nose quite seriously.
Right.
But the problem is the bladder thing is a bit of a downer, really.
What does it do? It fucks your bladder up big time.
It does.
Does it?
Yeah, and I think there's something else down there in your kidney or something that it's also quite problematic for.
MDMA.
Well, it makes your heart for a start. MDMA is, you have this sort of, like a bit like ayahuasca in something. I mean, this sort of feeling of pleasantness and love, and like you like everyone, and you want to talk, and you're tactile. Your tactility is, and you're just feeling good. And you actually feel, I've never felt tired on MDMA. So it's the only downside is you're going to be drained and depressed for a week. And you can only have it every, say, couple of months, 3 months, really. Or that's the recommended. Don't have it every week, for Christ's sake. So, nice is a word I used. I try to avoid using in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice. But if there's a drug that you can actually attach that to, you'd put it on MDMA.
Alcohol.
Oh, well, it's okay if you know when to stop and you don't do it often. But it's one, if you have too much, it's bad news for everyone around you and yourself. And you're going to have this huge, horrific downer, and the next day and subsequent days, possibly longer. It's a difficult one because it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and I found it's so hypocritical, because one of the sections in this book I've got the Grand Alcohol Tour. I've got one photograph in 40 odd different countries, and most of the countries I've been of a beer I've had in each country, because there's some really weird places and beers in.
But that's one beer. You're not binging on those beers.
No, that's right. But to be so down on alcohol,
well, you do like it. It's just
I do like it. It's just that the evaluating the risk, and actually controlling yourself and not just have another one, is actually quite a difficult thing to do.
Yeah,
I struggle to do that, and, and I know that. That's why
And then finally, fentanyl. Fentanyl.
Yeah, it's like a story. The best story I've got for fentanyl, is when it first came out. Everyone was terrified of it, rightly so. And I thought, how can I reflect that? I can't say, because what I don't say is, don't do drugs, don't do this, because I tell them the truth. If they want to do it, do it. But I can recommend and make it obvious that this is too fucking dangerous.
Because isn't it one where you just take a tiny amount of it and you can die, right?
Right. What I saw was a presentation in the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency in the United States. And they had this photo that they were presenting. You could just make it out. And they had the fatal dose of heroin in a test tube, the fatal dose of carfentanil, and the fatal dose of fentanyl. You had this heroin, you had this thing, and then you had the tuckle speckle. And I thought, my God, I don't have to actually, I can just show them that.
Yeah.
But it's their picture, copyright. I'm a drug guy. They're going to see me as the enemy. And I can't just steal the copyright, even if it was usable, because it was at an angle. So I wrote to them, and I said, "Dear DEA, I'm writing a book on drugs, on harm reduction, and your picture paints 1,000 words about fentanyl. Is there any chance that you can publish this on your website, even if it's just a page that I can see, because anything published on a US government website is copyright free.
Oh, right.
Right. So as long as it's on a .gov website, it's the people's.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So I wrote to them, I said, can you publish this picture for me? And this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do. And they came back and said, yeah, sure. And they put it on the website.
Ah.
So I was able to extract this amazing picture.
Yeah.
And I was able to sort of put that in the book and say, this is, if no other reason, is why you shouldn't use fentanyl.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, you are never going to be able to measure this tiny amount of this stuff.
So have you tried it
accurately.
or not?
No, it's the only one I haven't tried.
Right.
And the only reason is I wasn't scared of it.
Yeah.
What I was scared of is my ability to somehow break down this sugar granule,
Yeah.
less than that,
Yeah.
into a bit that I could actually...
Well, how are these people on the streets doing it in America?
I think what they're doing is because they're mixing. Well, again, it's volumetric. What you can do with volumetric dosing is if you've got, say, a litre of something, and you can put 1 milliliter in it, it's 1,000th of it, and you can mix it all up, and so that it's consistent across the litre. You've
Right.
expanded it so you know how strong a little bit of that fluid is.
Right.
That's how they do it typically.
Fucking hell. Where do they get that? What is fentanyl? What is it?
It's an opioid. It's like
So it comes out of a
it's
plant?
artificial. It's synthetic. Yeah,
Oh.
and it's. I mean, the problem with it is it's like the cannabinoids, the synthetic cannabinoids. You make something illegal, a chemist will find a stronger version. It's done with alcohol. You know, you had alcohol's prohibited in the US, so they end up with bootlegged stuff and drinks that were killing people.
Right.
You know, you do it with cocaine, and you end
Yeah.
up with crack. You do it with amphetamine, you end up with methamphetamine, and you do it with heroin, you end up with various generations down, and so you get to fentanyl. So whenever you prohibit a substance, they'll be aware of producing something that's a bigger bang for the buck along the same chemical route, and that's what's happened with fentanyl, and that's why it exists. If heroin was legal, it wouldn't exist. If cannabis was legal, these synthetic cannabinoids would not exist, and that's what society's created. It's created a monster.